foreign conversations going on. But the FISA court does come into play when there are foreign conversations that involve Americans, and we examine that far more carefully, and we've created a system now of rules in which the appropriate committees will be able to review in an audit way how the system is working every quarterly, every few months. We will be able to examine how it's working. We want to make sure that Americans who get involved in these conversations that come to the attention of our intelligence system are not inadvertently caught in a way that makes it very difficult for them to extricate themselves from the process, if indeed they should be. And so we've set up a way for the FISA court to review whether someone should have their conversations recorded. And then we have a minimization process so that they will be deleted if it turns out to be a purely innocent transaction or nothing that suggests that it's connected to the description of matters that fall into terrorizing or overthrow the government or attacks on the nation or any of its citizens. So we're working on these matters, and I must say that I've approached my whole career from the point of view of the transformative experience that I had with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which right after law school I was able to join with him in at least a small way in the South, working with him and his family and the great leaders of that incredible era. And it was amazing because Dr. King felt that we could change the pattern of segregation and discrimination that had been fixed into our system through the law and the courts, through a effective protest that was nonviolent, and that would start in the South. Many civil rights leaders of that day thought that this was a very dangerous course of action, and they couldn't talk him out of it, and he took the bus segregation case in Alabama up to the Supreme Court, and Rosa Parks' case prevailed, and with one fell swoop we made illegal the segregation of public transportation in America, and it went on from victory to victory to victory. But there was a lot of suffering, a lot of pushback. There were a lot of people not ready for it, and he persisted. And it was my thought that the greatest honor we could remember in this country Dr. Martin Luther King with was the legal holiday in honor of his birthday. And the King birthday bill was introduced several days after his assassination by myself, and after 15 years, the Congress and President Reagan determined that this bill would be signed into law. I'll never forget that day when the Senate acted on it after we did. And I remember the press came to me and they said, "Well, this is wonderful, Congressman. Could you describe in your own words what took so long for this bill to become a holiday?" And I remember I bit my tongue and firmly refused to give him a lecture that came to my mind about how long, and we had no idea how long things take. I've got a universal single-payer health care bill, which some of you are familiar with. And that measure is going to take a long time because of some of Senator Cornyn's reservations and observations about the fragility of Social Security and other health care parts, the Medicare, Medicaid. We have a broken system, 47 million people with no insurance, and many millions who are underinsured, but they won't find out until they present their policy for the health care that they may need. And so these things take time. And what I'm trying to do is encourage and build up the understanding of all Americans that voting is not just a right, but it's a duty. It's an obligation that requires not voting as someone or organization would want you to vote, but based on as careful and thoughtful examination as anybody could make about who's running and what do they stand for. I agree that that we need to shorten the length of time for these campaigns. In some respects, they seem to be getting longer and starting earlier rather than getting shorter and more specific. But I don't require candidates to talk about the tough issues. I just have never expected them to. Some of them don't talk about them after they get in office, so I know they're not going to do that much with them while they're seeking office. But there are a list of issues that we in the House Judiciary Committee are considering that I'd like to bring to your attention. We've found out that there was warrantless wiretapping on American citizens, which was very disturbing. We think it's been discontinued, and our oversight hearings will try to prove that. We're disturbed about the large number of signing statements that the current president has used to condition his signing our legislation into law. And for that, we think we need to examine very carefully these signing statements, because many of them, some tell me as much as 80% of them, have to do with constitutional issues or observations. We were again disturbed by the national security letters that the Federal Bureau of Investigation was rather recklessly sending out to people inquiring about the details and information of someone else. FBI Director Mueller has assured me that those have been discontinued. And then we are worried